introduce our next speaker, Richard Neville. Richard is a stirrer, futurist and retired publisher who long ago was jailed in Sydney and London for publishing material that alarmed the establishment and who supports the work of Julian Assange.
Okay, the way I see it is that Julian Assange and his colleagues have done the world, and I mean the whole world, an incredible favour. They managed to shine a light on a very murky part of the world and to reveal that to, well, millions of people that would never have had the opportunity. What? Okay, well, I'm trying to speak up and to stand up, and there's no light, and I'll keep going. In this war of treachery and lies and deceit and torture and diplomacy and murder, how brilliant of him to be onto that gunship and give it the name collateral murder. And that's what it was. And very few people at that point understood that such events were happening. Especially not, I should say, a lot of our newspapers. There was a lot of information suppressed.
Newspapers controlled by the government, mind you.
Yep, I'll keep rolling along, and you'll have yours heard in a second. That's okay. However, WikiLeaks managed to penetrate the matrix. No easy thing to do. And I reckon it was like catching the West, that's us, catching the West empty-handed. It turned out that we were not the good guys after all. In fact, we have been the accomplices. Most of the media was asleep at the wheel, desperate to be embedded. What a gruesome term. Others were stunned by what they saw. Lies and treachery on a grand scale. US, Britain, Australia. Our politicians jumped into the sewer. They forgot about the Declaration of Human Rights. They forgot about the UN Convention Against Torture, which incidentally we have actually ratified. So Howard and all his pals, what did they do? They tried to look tough and round up the suspects. So there was Mamdouh Habib, picked up at midnight on a bus to Pakistan. Then he was tortured, actually then taken to the Australian consulate at that time, who later on denied that they had anything to do with him. What happened to Mamdouh Habib after that? You know what happened to him after that, because he was rendered, with the help of Australian diplomats, to be sent to a place where he would be tortured. Where was that place? In Egypt. And when he was there, I remember him, in his book, he was saying that he was being beaten around the face, and the guy who was beating him, well, actually, his eyes, he was being beaten, but somehow the guy that was beating him turned out to be a character called Oman Suleiman, and revealed himself. And a few days later, who turned up to add torture documents to the Egyptians? Can you know this? Who swept his house, got all his records, took a trip to Egypt and gave it to the torturers. That was ASIO. Has ASIO ever been punished for that? Has anything been done about it? No.
Lied to his wife about where he was.
What's that?
They lied to his wife.
Yeah, they lied to all of us as well. So, of course, don't take too much notice of consular services and the deeds they are promising to do. One more page, a bit of luck. Julia Gillard is the last person to be trusted. In fact, the last time I think she was in America on a very big junket. Do you remember the speech she made and how it began? Americans can do anything. Americans can do anything. And as she was saying it, I was thinking, bloody hell, they're doing it. But the thing is, someone asked her about, oh, you know, do you mean the Vietnam War? And she said, what's that? I'm not kidding you. She was young at the time, to be fair. Okay. Anyway, Julian needs much more positive input than ever before, and as much help as he can possibly get. There, you know, Obama's out there as the assassin-in-chief at the White House, deciding who to kill in drones, including women and children. How dare that Julian Assange should be judged by people like that. But this is not, it's actually not Julian Assange who should be on the run, but the masters of war and all their little hangers-on, including those in Parliament now. And I just want to close with this thought, coming back to the idea of being liberated by Wikileaks right at the beginning. It brings back to mind one of the greatest myths in the world, but a positive myth. It's called Plato's Cave, and very briefly it's just about a group of prisoners who are locked up, their backs against the outside world, looking at the cave and seeing the flickering patterns on the wall. And over the weeks they realised that's what there was. Maybe you saw a bit of a fireplace, maybe you saw a couple of puppets, but that was the real world. And one of these prisoners managed to escape, and outside he saw the sunshine. He saw children. He listened to the birds. And he was so amazed that this was the real world, he went back to let his friends know that that was what was happening. But the people who were still in the power of the cave wouldn't believe him. They said it was impossible. But in a way, we're all a bit like those that stayed behind. And in fact, when the guy came back to tell him that actually there's sunshine and laughter out there, they all thought he was mad. But in fact, he wasn't mad. And we need more information, and we are getting information from people that will build up, hopefully, a much better way of working with each other in the future. And so I say, God bless Julian Assange and all he stands for.
Before I introduce our next speaker, I'd just like to do two things. One is to say